Very good morning to all of you. This is S.M. Bhagwan, lecturer in English, Government Polytechnic, Solapur. And in today's online lecture, we are going to study active and passive voice in English language. So, let's have a look at the various types of sentences that are used to make active to passive and passive to active. In this example, we find that the first sentence is written in active voice, that is, Ram starts the computer. While converting the sentence into a passive voice, at first we have to identify the subject, the verb, and the object of that particular sentence. So, in the answer, the object becomes the subject of passive voice. The object becomes subject of in passive voice. And look at the tense. Here we can easily identify that the tense of this sentence is present tense. So the present form of this word is taken here, as the computer is single or singular noun. So we have taken here helping verb. To be is helping verb is, and this is the past participle, that is the V3 of the verb start. So this is the structure, and this subject becomes object in this passive example. It is so simple. So one more time, let me explain you. This was the question. Ram starts the computer. Subject, verb, and object. The object of this question becomes the subject. Okay. Now it is the singular. After that, we have to identify the tense. We can easily identify the tense from the verb form. It yes or es is a suffix to this verb. So this is present tense. So in present tense, we can take am, is, are at the place of this is, depending on the subject. So the computer is started. This is the V3 or past participle of this verb form, and this subject becomes object here. So in this example, both the expressions are the same, but the manner of expression is different. In the first sentence, doer of the action is important. Karta महत्वाचा आहे. In the first sentence, doer of the action is important, so it is written in active voice. And in the second example, object is given importance. What is the object? The computer. The computer is the object. It is given importance in the second example. So this sentence is written in passive voice. Now let's have a look at rules of converting active voice into passive voice. At first, we should take into account how the assertive sentences are converted into passive voice. There are some rules of converting these sentences into passive voice. These rules are: at first, the place of the subject and object is interchanged. Just now I told it about it to you. The object becomes the subject of verb and vice versa. In the second rule, the past participle, that is V3 form of the verb, is always used in the sentences of passive voice for all tenses, whether the tense is present, past, or future. The V3 form is always used in the passive form of a sentence. This is one more important rule. And the third rule is the word by is used before the object in the sentences in passive voice. So these are some of the rules of converting active to passive voice. Now here is the list of change of pronoun. Change of pronoun. These pronouns are written as I, we, you, he, she, it, they in active voice, but they become I becomes me, we becomes us, you becomes you, he becomes him, she becomes her, it becomes it, they becomes them in passive voice. This change is important. So we have to remember, we have to understand these rules, and these are the changes regarding the pronoun, so that we can easily convert an active sentence into passive one. This is the chart I have prepared I have prepared it especially for you, that expresses the conversion of active sentences into passive ones in different tenses. These are the different tenses, and you will easily identify that how these active sentences are converted into passive ones in different tenses. Here I have taken the examples of simple present, present continuous, present perfect, simple past, past continuous, past perfect, simple future, etc. In the next slide, there are more examples regarding the conversion of active into passive voice. For example, in this example, he writes a letter. This sentence is in active voice, and it is an example in simple present tense. So at first we need to understand the subject, he, verb, writes, object, a letter. He writes a letter. It is very important in active and passive voice to identify the subject, verb and object of that particular sentence or example. So the answer of this sentence will be like this. This is the object, a letter. It will become the subject of this passive voice. After that, we have to identify the tense. What is the tense? If we see the yes or es suffix here to the verb, we can easily identify that it is in simple present tense. So for simple present tense or present tense, we take the to be is helping verb am, is, are, depending on the subject. Here the subject is singular, a letter, so is applicable here. After that, we should take the V3 form or past participle of this verb. What is the past participle form of this verb? It is written. So after that, we should take the subject of this sentence as the object of this passive one, and before that we should write by. So the answer becomes like this: a letter is written by him. So this is the method of solving the question of active voice into passive voice. In the next example also, we can easily identify the subject, verb, the object. Subject becomes object, verb is taken, the appropriate verb is taken according to the subject, according to the tense of this example. After that, the subject becomes object in passive voice, and this is the method. After that, the whole sentence is suppose this example is in continuous form. Here we cannot change the tense or the form, particular form of tense of that particular sentence. So the tense should be maintained. All these examples are here. I have given you for the purpose of practice. So you need to understand, you need to solve, you need to take into account the rules of solving the questions based on active and passive verbs forms. Now passive sentences with the two objects. Sometimes there may be two objects in a sentence. In that situation, two answers are possible, and you can write the answer by using any one of the object. The other object remains the object of that particular example. Here I have given the example that the first example is in active voice. A manager is the subject, will give is the verb, you is the first object, a ticket is the second object. Now, as I told you earlier, that we can write the answer of this sentence example in two ways. The first type or first method of solving the answer, we can take this object, a ticket. Here we have taken the will, so will be. a ticket will be. After that, the past participle of this verb. A ticket will be given. After that, we should take the object of this sentence. A ticket will be given to you by the manager. By the manager. Actually, here I have written the by mistake, but it should be by a manager. Here we cannot change a to the. It should be the a. In the second example, you. Here we have taken the second object you. You will be given a ticket by a manager. You will be given a ticket by a manager. So here we can say that if there are two objects in one example, we can write the answer of that question in two types, two methods. After that, let us see how the interrogative sentences are converted into active to passive passive voices. When the active voice is changed into passive voice, the primary auxiliary verbs like do, does, did do not appear in the passive form. The auxiliary verbs like have, has, will, shall, can or may do not change their position. The WH words like when, why, where, how also do not change their position. These are the examples of conversion of active and passive voice. You can easily identify the subject, verb and object of these sentences and practice it accordingly. These are very important. In the next slide, we have imperative sentences, that is Adnyarthi Vakya. Adnyarthi Vakya. While converting the imperative sentences into passive voice, let us have the example of open the door. Let the door be opened. It is very simple method. By using let and the past participle form of this verb, we can write the answer of such examples. Like this, this was the first example. In the second example, do not beat the dog. Let the dog not be beaten. This is the negation. This is the negative example, negative sentences. Next is help me. Let me be helped. You are requested to help me. Learn the poem. Let the poem be learned. In such a situation, in such an example, we can use let, or you are instructed, you are ordered, you are warned, you are asked. These are the expressions that we can use to convert these sentences into passive voice. Now, these are some of the examples of active to passive voice. Some of the examples are given in present tense, some of the past tense, some of the future tense, so that you can easily identify the difference between the different types of sentences as well as different types of tenses. By practice, you can easily convert a sentence into active to passive and passive to active voice. Let me explain here that formal writing is always written, formal communication is always written in passive form. It is also called as the official language, as the language of science books is always written in passive form. Try to understand the difference between active and passive voice. It is when the subject is important or when the doer of the action is important, that sentence is written in active voice, and when the action or the object is important, that sentence is written in passive voice. So this is the basic difference between the active and passive voice. These are some more examples of present continuous tense, present perfect tense, and after watching these examples, after going through these examples, you can easily solve out the questions regarding active and passive voice. One more thing that is important here, that I have given you the many examples in these slides. You have to stop the video for some time and write down the examples in your notebook, and again you have to practice these examples or such more examples in your notebook, so that you can have more and more practice of solving the questions based on active and passive voice. So friends, that's it for today's lecture. We will meet in the next lecture. Thank you.